paying your rent this month. Go ahead and sign here. It's just going to ask you a couple of questions.
A tip? I'm not tipping my landlord.
So you'll tip a barista who pours overpriced coffee into a cup, but not the guy who's on call 24/7 to make sure you have a safe home.
So hello everyone, once again, and for a final time from the Kingdom of Cambodia. This is the second month I've been here in my 6 months long travels around Southeast Asia so far. Got another month to go, and I guess that's somewhat related to the theme of this video. Because of course I've been moving apartment every single month, so I've had to deal with landlords, and thankfully in my experience they've been pretty much okay in every place I've stayed. But you guys would have seen that absolutely insane viral TikTok about 2 people involved in real estate who are saying you should basically tip your landlord. And obviously everyone has been memeing this, posting pictures of Mao while quote tweeting this video. And I've actually done a bit of research into the people who posted this, because I don't think it's as black and white, although I do think fundamentally these people aren't good people because they are massive, very wealthy landlords. We're going to try and treat it with some nuance, because at least in some of their TikToks, they try and tell landlords how to not break the law, because there's lots of things landlords feel entitled to do. And basically what these 2 people do is do sketches, and one of them plays a bad landlord trying to evict their tenants for X, Y, and Z. And then they kind of explain why that would be illegal. But I don't think it comes from a place of them fundamentally caring about tenants and their livelihoods and their homes. It's more about yeah, you want to make as much money as possible and you don't want to deal with lawsuits. So act like this and don't break the law, because otherwise you're going to suffer financially. But also on the Mao note, a lot of landlords also feel like they're in danger recently because of the conditions around the Western world. And I was actually reading an article about a landlord self-defense school, and I was going to make a whole video just on that, but I thought it'd be nice if we blend these 2 things together, the tipping landlord TikTokers and the landlord self-defense school, and just talk about that in general, because as leftists we always like talking about how terrible landlords are. So all of that coming up for you today in the video. Also, thanks for the feedback on the Tetris thing in the last video. I might try it again in this video, so let me know what you guys think. Before we go any further, please like the video, and in the comments just leave any thoughts about landlords. And I guess the question would be, has a landlord ever tried to get you to tip them? Maybe not using the word tip, but in essence they want a tip. Let me know down in the comments. Also, follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter, also on Instagram. Instagram is where I'm posting about my travels around Southeast Asia, and that is all archived in my highlight reels on my profile page by basically month. So if you care about what I've been up to, go check that out. I've been documenting my travels pretty thoroughly. Also, I've posted a couple travel videos on my Patreon page, got another one coming out soon about my time in Thailand. So if you care about that, consider becoming a patron. Other benefits include getting access to the Discord server and getting access to my Nintendo Switch friend code. And also check out the subreddit and check out my second channel down in the description. So I'm pretty aware that a fair few people who watch my videos don't actually subscribe to my channel. It might be the first video they've ever watched. So maybe we should talk about landlords a bit. So I made a landlord video the last time I was in Hanoi, Vietnam. We were looking at landlord TikTok, and basically what I did was I read quotes from Mao, Adam Smith, and Winston Churchill, because the one thing these people all shared was they really hated landlords. Even the OG capitalist himself, Adam Smith, hated landlords, because all of these people, from a Maoist, the father of modern capitalism, one of the most visible face of European colonialism, they all agreed that landlords did not earn their money. They're essentially parasites, and they benefited off the work of other people. And obviously, I don't need to tell most of you, everyone needs a place to live. Everyone needs a house. Everyone needs an apartment. What is the alternative to not paying rent or not buying a house? Well, you're not going to have a place to stay. You might go homeless or something like that. So these people know that, and that's why they buy up so much property, and they essentially extort people. I was looking at some prices at old council homes in the UK in bad areas of London going for £4,000 a month, right? Because Margaret Thatcher started selling off council homes. So that is at the state of the rental market right now, because our governments don't care, because our governments are filled with massive landlords, especially in the UK's Tory party. So they essentially are extorting you, because they know a lot of people, you have to pay this. You have to pay most of your wages just for a place to live. And of course, these landlords often are terrible. They don't even help with the basic requirements of being like a landlord in the first place. But fundamentally and ideologically, these people are some of the worst capitalist parasites around, in that they just use their wealth to buy up property and really just extort people, because housing is a fundamental basic needs and our government don't care. Like, look in the US, all these corporations like Zillow just buying up all these houses. It's getting into like a dystopian nightmare right now. And I also spoke about this in my last video. The brainwashing of certain societies into glorifying landlords is insane. Like this neoliberalism, which makes people feel okay about making TikToks bragging about how they don't pay tax or how they use government loans to essentially fund their massive property portfolio. And they feel like they can just go on TikTok and say this. And the bad thing is, a lot of people like it. A lot of people follow them. And a lot of people aspire to be a parasitic landlord, because we have brainwashed people so much to see basic necessities as commodities. And of course, that goes for everything from food to housing. But it's just really, really depressing. I'm seeing like young people, like 19-year-olds, talking about like their property portfolio and getting into real estate. And it's just blowing my mind, because as we've seen throughout history, if Mao, Adam Smith and Winston Churchill can all agree that landlords are parasites, why can't we all agree on that today? Why has neoliberalism conditioned us so much that we accept this as legitimate? We accept buying up massive amounts of property and just extorting people for rent. That is an okay thing. Not only do these people do this, they feel okay publishing videos of themselves doing it on TikTok for likes, and they want to become social media personalities based on being a landlord. But on that note, let's get into the landlords who want a tip. So basically, these guys have a TikTok page called Two Guys Take on Real Estate. And basically they do like response videos and little sketches about how to be a landlord or the various issues you will deal with while being a landlord. But like I said, this one went absolutely viral. So let's just watch it and kind of respond to it.
All right, thanks for paying your rent this month. Go ahead and sign here. It's just going to ask you a couple of questions.
A tip? I'm not tipping my landlord.
So you'll tip a barista who pours overpriced coffee into a cup, but not the guy who's on call 24/7 to make sure you have a safe home.
I'm not tipping you. This isn't a restaurant.
Okay, so you'll tip an extra 25% for somebody to carry you a basket of chicken wings, but you won't tip someone who responds for after-hours emergency calls? Yep. Well, I guess when it's time for your lease renewal, I'm going to make sure gratuity is included in your rent. It's a little tip I learned from Two Guys Take on Real Estate.
There is quite a lot to discuss in that video, and we're going to talk about, like, is this a joke? Is this an attempt at, like, rage farming to get social media clicks and stuff? So first of all, let's talk about these two guys. So the first guy, who is the landlord, is wearing a 1776 USA shirt. I'm pretty sure that's a Blue Lives Matter flag on his right arm. So again, not off to a great start. And then also the other person is obviously a man cosplaying as a woman, I guess wearing drag. And I think what they're supposed to be is like some woke feminist. But I don't really understand why the second guy has to pretend to be like an outraged woman in this clip. I think it would work just fine, the sketch, if he was just like a dude. Of course, like tipping culture in general is pretty annoying. Like American tipping culture, I've heard from people who've gone there, just like takes it to like a different level, like where you have to tip a bartender like each time they pour you a drink. Not that you'd give them a tip when you're like paying at the end, you give them a tip each time. But that's because in some American states, the minimum wage is like $2. So your whole income relies on tips, and that's kind of like the societal understanding. And that's why you tip, to literally subsidize people's wages, which is completely ridiculous. And tipping culture in America has gone like so crazy. And look, I'm someone who tips all the time, especially in Southeast Asia. I've been tipping a lot for like cab rides and food delivery. It's like America, like you understand how much less these people are paid, and they're doing you like a nice service and you can afford it. So that's a good thing. And you obviously like appreciate the labor of driving someone somewhere or bringing someone's food. That's totally fine. And even for me personally in the UK, where I guess servers are paid better like through minimum wage than in the US, I still always tip, unless it's like absolutely terrible. Unless like the service is so bad, like they completely forget about you, or they bring someone their food and not the other person, that's the only time I won't tip. Generally, I don't care about your demeanor. I don't care if you're happy. I don't care if you put a smile on your face. If you do like the bare minimum in service, I will give you a tip. I really don't care. I know how hard it is to work these types of jobs. I absolutely hated working part-time and then full-time in various different roles, so I understand it. Tipping a landlord, on the other hand, just takes that to such an extreme level because landlord, you're already a parasite. I'm already paying your mortgage on this house that you will probably kick me out of. And in some cases with these like mega landlords, I'm probably paying your mortgage and then some. So you're just getting a nice profit every month. Even if this like ideal landlord who is on call 24/7, does everything perfectly, is literally like the gold standard, I'm still not giving you a tip. Because you're extorting me, you're extorting my need for housing, and I'm paying your mortgage and might be paying you a profit. Why would I give you even more money because you're nice? You should do that anyway, and it's sad because most landlords won't be on call 24/7. Let me know in the comments, have you ever had a landlord who's super good, on call 24/7, and actually helps with your problems in a timely manner, so you actually like respect them for doing that? More often than not, you have horror stories of landlords not doing anything when stuff can actually affect your health, like damp and mold and things like that. So landlord tipping is already pretty annoying and gross in many instances, especially in America, where you're essentially subsidizing servers' wages. But yes, you're already leeching off me. I'm not paying you extra for the privilege. So I just like was looking at this on Reddit to see if like people were agreeing with the tipping thing. And I just found this comment underneath. So please be satire. Landlords aren't doing this right. And one comment said, my friend lives in a big building in LA and they get an email every month they have to click on to pay the rent. When you open it, it's basically a checkout cart on Shopify, but it includes a 20% gratuity in the rent price. His rent is $3,500 a month. So every time he opens the email, it auto loads his rent as $4,375 a month. There's a small option to change final price, and you can then choose either 10%, 20, 30, or 40% as an added tip price, or you can click contest price, and it will then bump you out and send you a new email with the price set at $3,500. It's about a 10-minute process he has to do every month, so he doesn't accidentally tip his landlord almost $900. And then someone else saying, the landlord of the building where I rent space for my restaurant charges a 10% management fee. So clearly, whether this was like rage bait or even them making a joke, not sure if it was, but landlords clearly do this. And why do they do this? Because they are so entitled to your money. This is a really common sentiment about landlords. They always feel victimized by tenants. They always like really have this attitude towards tenants. They're trying to like screw them over, and the tenants should be grateful they provided them such a nice house to live in. So why shouldn't you tip your landlord? Why shouldn't you pay gratuity to your landlord? Or why shouldn't your landlord try to scam you out of 20% of your rent like this guy was outlining on that horrible Shopify thing? So clearly, even if this is an attempt at like, you know, rage bait and stuff, it's something that landlords actually do. And combined with the 1776 shirt with the Blue Lives Matter thing, I can't say that these people have great politics that they maybe wouldn't actually expect a tip. Why I'm talking about nuance here is that if you go on their page where they do similar sketches like this, what they're trying to do is make landlords realize a lot of things they want to do are actually illegal and they shouldn't do it. So I want to talk about this for a sec and show you a few TikToks, because clearly it's not motivated by compassion for the tenants, wanting to be a good landlord in terms of like morality. It's clearly motivated, like I said earlier, out of not being sued and not getting in trouble with the government so you can maintain like your real estate portfolio. But just want to show you a couple and we're going to talk about it.
I'm not a squatter. I mailed myself a postcard here.
Wait, so I can't just throw you out? I have to go through a 6-month-long eviction process instead?
Yup, 6 months free rent.
Well, I guess that's better than the lawsuit I'd get from illegally throwing you out. It's a good thing I knew about this by filing 2 Guys Take On Real Estate.
Hey! You can't evict me! Housing's a human right!
You can afford a brand new luxury car, but you won't pay your rent? He doesn't know what I know.
Hey!
He's not paying for rent, I'm not paying for heat.
Hey!
No rent, no water for you. Not that he showers anyway.
Hey! Hey, landlord, you can't turn off my services. That's a constructive eviction. I'm suing!
Hey, what? You're telling me I have to provide all my services even though you're not a paying customer? How did someone like you outsmart someone like me?
That's because you don't follow two guys take on real estate.
My tenant's suing me because they slipped and fell. But how is that my fault?
Well, there was a snowstorm last night. Did you shovel?
What? They're the ones that live there. Why would I shovel?
Don't you realize if someone gets hurt because of snow or ice, they could sue you?
Well, come on. I got into real estate as a passive investment. I'm not trying to be at the property constantly doing maintenance work.
Listen, as the property owner, you're responsible for all maintenance, including snow removal, unless, of course, you put it in the lease. And you would have known this if you followed Two Guys Take on Real Estate.
So a couple of those videos were using music, so sorry if there wasn't any like speaking audio and I was playing like some Animal Crossing music or something. TikTok is really annoying that it doesn't have much copyright restrictions where YouTube actually does. But anyway, if you were reading the text or listening to them speak, basically they're just doing these various scenarios which are like fairly common, I guess, in real estate, where people are like squatting at your place or people aren't paying their rent on time, paying for 6 months, and they might actually sue you if you do things, I don't know, like turn the water off or don't do the repairs and stuff. And I guess that's why I'm trying to paint it as more nuanced, because at the very least, unlike some other landlord TikToks, they're trying to help people not break the law. Even I was learning some stuff like the snow shoveling thing. I'd never heard of that. So I guess it's good they're informing people about the reality of actually being landlords, so these landlords don't try their luck and break the law. And I guess that is a redeeming thing about this, but I guess at the same time, landlords don't really care about the law because they know a lot of tenants don't know these things. So if a lot of tenants don't know these things, when you start doing things that are illegal, they won't challenge it and they will just give you like the extra money, or they will leave the apartment because you've given them an eviction notice illegally. Because again, the landlords either don't know this is illegal or they do know it's illegal. They are banking on you not knowing it's illegal. So I guess it's good for people, even if you're a tenant, to kind of watch these TikToks and understand that even if you haven't paid rent in months, but you have like this like 1 year lease, for example, they still have to repair the property because then you can sue them. So there's one more TikTok I kind of want to show you, only because in my mind, it might cast more doubt on the original tipping one. Basically, they have a video where a tenant thinks they've been evicted because they haven't paid like extra fees to the landlord. So let's have a look at this one.
I'm being evicted for non-payment. Help! Okay, slow down. Give me the details. Look, I pay my rent each month, but I'm way behind on my pet fees, my washer dryer fees, and some maintenance fees. I know something his landlord doesn't. Do you? What the hell was that? Never mind. Listen, in many states, a landlord can't evict you for only not paying those fees that are on top of the monthly rent. So I don't ever need to pay those fees? You should always pay what you owe. But did you know it's technically illegal in a lot of states for a landlord to charge those fees to begin with? If he was smart, he would have just increased the rent to include those fees. Well, if he were smart, he'd be following Two Guys Take on Real Estate.
So again, watching that, I didn't know that in many states it's actually even illegal to charge these fees. Like if I stayed at a place that gave me those fees, I'd be like, oh, what is this BS? Them just trying to extort me out of everything. But, you know, you watch that, you know it's actually illegal. And he's saying, well, if you were smart, you'd actually raise the rents. That shows you that they're not doing this out of the kindness of their own heart. They're just like, don't break the law. So if you want people to pay more for these things, just don't tell them and, you know, raise the rent. But I guess in that, at least the tenant knows that the rent is a certain amount, rather than like your rent is X a month, here's a bunch of other fees which you probably can't afford on top of that. So of course I think these people are fundamentally like very, very immoral, but I'm just trying to treat the situation with a bit more nuance and analyze this, trying to think like, was that original one a joke or not, or were they sincerely thinking they should be tipped for being a good landlord? And I guess they could still believe the thing I've just shown you and still want a tip, because I don't know if there's laws against tipping landlords. Let's hope there are. But now let's just get onto one which shows you that, you know, they are still landlords. Landlords are all bad, no matter how much they try and like stick within the confines of the law and try and be good landlords. At the end of the day, landlords are both leeching off people's need for basic necessities, but also often using banks, government loans to actually not pay tax. And of course, their TikTok page tells me how I can avoid actually paying tax. So that's nice as well. So let's watch this.
I hear you don't pay anything in taxes? Shh, who spilled the beans? It's no secret that you're in real estate. Okay, so you've heard about the 1031 exchange. Yeah, but I don't really understand it. Let me break it down for you. Say you buy a duplex for $300,000 and you own it for 10 years. Well, now you want to sell it because it's worth $500,000. Normally you pay tax on that $200 gain. Well, IRC section 1031 allows you to do a like-kind exchange to defer that tax. Wow, it's that simple? Of course, there's a few more things you want to know. Within 45 days of the sale of the property, you need to identify one or more properties, and within 108 days of the sale of the property, you need to close on the properties. And you can technically do this over and over and over again until you die, and then leave it to your heirs on a stepped-up basis, legally avoiding taxes. Wow, where can I learn more about this kind of stuff? Make sure you follow Two Guys Take on Real Estate.
Of course, even the TikTok is saying it's no secret that people who get into real estate do so to avoid paying a lot of tax. And he's saying there, you would avoid paying tax on the profit if you just keep reinvesting it to keep being this leeching landlord forever until you die. Then just give this tax to your heirs once you're dead, so you'll never have to worry about it. That's why I just find it so amazing that landlords have no shame. Like, not only are they doing this, they're bragging about it. They're bragging about not paying tax like your average Joe, like the rest of us would have to pay, because they know the law better. The whole system is essentially set up to benefit people like landlords and not the rest of us. And because they know this, they take advantage of it. And in my other video, I was showing people who were like buying like Section 8 housing with government loans and the government were buying it back off them. They were just exploiting a government program for like poorer people to make themselves richer. Again, these parasites, they have no shame. No matter what your politics are, let's take the example of Mao, Churchill and Adam Smith. Let's all come together and agree that landlords are terrible, immoral people, and it doesn't matter even if that tipping thing was joking, even if they're trying to like tell other landlords you can't break the law like this, it doesn't make them good people or even good landlords, because that's an oxymoron. It's like saying a good policeman, you cannot be a good landlord, because being a landlord, like being a policeman, is fundamentally immoral. But now I want to talk about something else I was reading, and it's about landlord self-defense school. And the thing is, in like a more normal society, maybe they would need a self-defense school, but as I said, these people do not need a self-defense school. If you're literally going on TikTok and bragging about how you're not paying taxes and how the government are essentially funding your real estate portfolio. But yes, there is a landlord self-defense school, and it's not them really wanting to learn self-defense because they're scared of generally people hating landlords, like, I don't know, communist China or something like that. They're just finding it hard to evict tenants, and tenants are being more aggressive because of things like the pandemic and basically just how terrible the global economy is right now. So by Jack Ross at Capital and Main, there's just no hiding inside the self-defense class for landlords. If you Google tenant landlord murder, you'll see, Carrie Rios says, the former traffic cop pushes her tortoiseshell glasses up her nose and surveys her class of property managers and landlords who have so far failed to match her pep at 9 in the morning. The poster behind her commemorates a 1948 campaign against rent control. Freedom is everybody's business, it reads. So many cases, she says, grinning and shaking her head. That's why this class is so important. On a grey February day at the offices of the Apartment Association of Greater LA, 11 landlords and property managers have enrolled in a 2-hour self-defense class to protect themselves from irate tenants, transients, and the other hazards of life in the private housing business. The course teaches them how to stop life-threatening bleeding, maintain 360 degrees of awareness, taking cover from bullets. Founded in 1917, this organization is the premier association representing landlords and property managers in LA. Last year, it hired the Health and Safety Institute to teach its overt self-defense course, because as landlords and property managers, we could be subject to verbal and or physical attacks by renters or tenant groups. Unfortunately, the media portrays us as evil. I mean, the media doesn't really do this. A lot of people can agree landlords are evil. So Rios teaches the course with Hans Theovert, a 6'5" lieutenant paramedic who says he is passionate about bleeding control. They believe landlords in particular need the training. In COVID, a lot of people lost their jobs, they lost their family, and the last thing they have is their house. Rios tells the group, "You're taking the last thing they have. This is their worst day. I'm not trying to scare you, but you need to be prepared for that. When you go to evict, they're ready for you." So again, this just shows you the mindset of the landlords. They fully acknowledge their home can be the last thing they own. All these terrible things that might have befallen them in society, death of loved ones, losing their job because of the pandemic. But no, they're not thinking, how do we restructure this? How do we be more compassionate? How do we give people a break? Oh no, let's teach self-defense so we can go in there and evict them violently ourselves, basically. So let's continue. We're afraid, agrees a mum and pop landlord who declined to give her name because she was worried about anti-landlord bias. She and her husband tell the group they came to learn how to deal with homeless people and tenants who get a little crazed. and tenants who come after you with a video camera. These sessions were an immediate hit when they launched last year, successfully competing for a space in the packed AAGLA calendar that also offers estate planning Q&As with local politicians and lectures on COVID-19 eviction protections with Dennis Block, the super lawyer called the Henry Ford of evictions, for his breathtaking efficiency processing cases. Today's turnout is paltry compared to that of previous sessions, which sold out at 30 attendees each. Until February 1st, landlords could not evict tenants in the city of LA who cite COVID as the reason they could not pay rent. The resulting conflicts between tenants and landlords in part inspired the AAGLA to host the classes. County protections expire March 31st. AAGLA sued both the city and the county over their eviction protections and regularly lobbied to end the so-called moratorium. So Executive Director Dan Yukelson agrees that rising rents have raised tensions and then says the only thing that hasn't been done to us is painting us with horns and a tail. We don't even say landlord anymore because anything with lord is bad. Landlord, drug lord. Yukelson says he has no research demonstrating increasing violence against landlords. They always love to paint themselves as the victims. But tenant advocates say that the pandemic heightened conflict. LA's Eviction Defense Network says that in 2020, complaints from tenants that their landlords were harassing them increased by 352% over 2019. Executive Director Alina Pop says that landlords barred from eviction court resorted to illegal tenant harassment to remove renters. During the pandemic, 911 calls from tenants reporting their landlords had illegally locked them out of their units also spiked, and the calls were concentrated in Black and Latino neighborhoods. By the end of 2022, LA County landlords were again filing evictions at pre-pandemic rates. So no evidence violence against landlords is going up. It's just that landlords think they're the victim all the time because they can't evict people during a pandemic. Like, what do you want to do? Throw them out on the street, make them homeless? Of course they do, because they are soulless, because they are heartless. And then they turn around saying, oh, the media says we're evil and we're the devil, while I'm literally acting evil and acting like the devil. So in the first half of the course, the students practice applying tourniquets to life-threatening wounds, lacerations you can bleed out from. I mean, that's just good to know anyway. I don't think these landlords have to be too worried about that right now. One of the most life-threatening injuries I see is when people punch through the plate glass windows, and that might be something you guys deal with in tenant-landlord disputes. People get heated, they punch out a window. Well, as soon as I get that call, I'm already getting out the tourniquet. In well-produced videos, Avert co-founder Darcy Lutzinger tells the audience to strike the nose with an open palm when fighting an assailant, push your fingers into the eyes, the former narcotics officer says, adopting a newscaster's fluctuating vocal intonations, consider scratching and biting, absolutely lovely, or maybe consider not evicting poor people when they can't pay their rent because they've lost their job. So Yukelson saying, people want to be Robin Hoods. They want to transfer wealth from the property to someone else. They want free rent. Now they say, housing is a human right. I mean, it's crazy. Unless the government provides housing, he adds. Can you imagine? Oh, it's so crazy, Dan Yukelson, providing the basic necessities to life to everyone who's alive. Absolutely crazy. What we should do actually is trust all housing into people like you who then evict them when they lose their job or lose their means of actually paying for their own survival, right? That's what we should do instead. Housing being a human right or just being a right is a notion that's been around for like hundreds of years, and this person's acting like it's some crazy thing that was invented like last week. But I think landlords taking self-defense classes just shows you how much they have this victim mentality. Like it was saying there, the rates of landlords committing crimes against their tenant, harassing their tenants in LA increased by 352%. Based on the data, there was no increase in violence against landlords, right? So the landlords are the ones doing the harassing, doing the illegal things. The tenants should be taking self-defense classes in case their landlord does something like this. But these guys are thinking that, well, these people have lost everything, and I'm going to take the final thing they have, their house, and I need to protect myself from doing that. It's my right. It's my investment. It's my right to extort and leech of these people. So I need to know how to scratch and bite them and like break their nose and stuff in case they attack me, which seems to like never ever happen. What it feels like more is this self-defense will just embolden them to actually commit violence while trying to evict their tenants. Because in most cases, these people don't even see their tenants as human. They just see them as a way to profit. They see them as a way to make a lot of money. And if you're not doing that anymore, then they won't treat you like a human. They'll throw you out in the street. They'd literally rather you die than occupy the house that you're probably paying the mortgage on. So does it make sense for landlords to have self-defense classes in America in 2023? I would say no. Does the media demonize landlords? No. Are landlords perfectly accepted in America, even glorified? Yes. Do they feel emboldened to rub it in our faces on TikTok and social media? Yeah. So if they can go around to millions of people talking about, needing tips, talk about how they go into poor areas and buy out the property and jack up the rent, which has an effect on rent in the whole area, they feel emboldened enough to do that. If you are bragging about this stuff, you don't need self-defense. But again, victim mentality, they feel like they're contributing to society. They feel like we even need them for housing. They don't realize how terrible they are. And that's the amazing thing. And like I said, from Mao to Adam Smith to Churchill, they all agreed over 100 years ago, in some cases nearly 200 years ago, that landlords are terrible people. And now we've reached a point in society where landlords are getting self-defense training, not because everyone hates them and might commit violence against them, not because every person is now turned into Mao. It's because they just don't like being demonized in the press and they're scared. If they take away someone's home, there might be violence against them, despite there being no evidence of that. Anyway, that is it for the video, the last video in Cambodia. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.